Welcome back. You're watching The Full View. In 2011 to 2013, the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund and the Ministry of Women, Children and People with Disabilities came together to create a platform for children to raise their issues. Well, each year, children's representatives from all districts attend the Children's Parliament. At each sitting, the children elect child ambassadors who serve for a year from all 9 provinces, respectively. Over the years, children have presented the declaration to government and leaders of civil society on issues that affect them with little response to their concerns. As a result, the provincial ambassadors, speakers, presidents and the Efeng Bacha Advisory Committee have all come together to develop the very first South African Children's Manifesto. But for more on this, we are now joined in studio by Mampe Ntsedi, the Programme Manager of Child Safety and Protection from the Nelson Mandela Children's Foundation, and of course 16-year-old Kabinde, the 2019 Child Parliament Ambassador. Very good evening, Cherie. Thank you very much for joining us in studio. Essentially, with regards to the manifesto, what does it consist of?
The manifesto consists of the 4 pillars of the Constitution, where children actually saying that government has made promises and made a promise since the Constitution was signed. But there's very little that has happened in terms of children being protected, children being developed the way they would want to be developed, children surviving, and as well as children's participation.
That being said, what then do you think is the importance of its function?
The importance of the function is really to hold accountable the new government that is coming in, but the civil society as well, and all of us, business, government, parents, and children themselves. We need to be able to say, what is it that we're doing for our children? Currently, what we see in terms of what government is doing for children, children are mentioned in programs, in platforms, but you really ask, what is it that we're doing for our children? Our children, we're saying today, we do not feel safe. We do not feel safe to walk to school. We do not feel safe at home. We do not feel safe in school, and we are not running away from only strangers. We are running away from parents, guardians, educators, governments, civil society people. Everybody is actually attacking us in one way or the other.
Now I'm going to ask you, Sihle, you're 16 years old. Yes. Do you believe the same sentiments that children are mentioned, they're constantly spoken about, but at the same time they are the forgotten voices?
I would really have to say that I do, because we had a certain session sort of where we would basically dissect the political parties' own manifestos. And when you look at their manifestos, it's like they hardly mention children. Yes, of course, they do mention, of course, your education and so on. But then when it comes to actually speaking about children's needs and their safety and basically their development, there's not much that they say about it. But I wouldn't say that they're forgotten voices. We do speak, but then perhaps I think they don't implement or take us seriously with whatever that we are saying to them.
So what do you think then is the importance as being a child ambassador and being able to have a voice and being able to be a part of this and being able to engage with those political parties, you know, to mention those things that children should be included in or should be included in their current manifestos?
I think it's important because basically we are the millennials, if you want to put it like that, and we are the future of South Africa. And that being said, we need to have a say in the South Africa that we want. So that's how I feel about it, basically.
Now, since you take us through the analysis, we do believe that once it was launched, political parties were also able to go through the manifesto and give their points and views. Just take us through the engagement that took place between the Children's Parliament per se and political parties.
Chantal, extremely disappointing. We only had one political party, which is a very new political party, which the children didn't even analyze the manifesto, which was ATM. Everybody else, and this is the second time. In July last year, we had the same session where we actually were trying to engage with the political parties in Parliament. Only one political party came in. Today, same story. So with ATM has committed one, to adopt this current manifesto, this children's manifesto, as their manifesto with the voice of children. And we don't know what the rest of the other organizations are saying. And for us, the interpretation is they actually don't care for children. And you know, the sad part is she's 16. In the next elections, she'll be a voter. In the next local government elections, she'll be a voter. They are missing on an opportunity to engage her, to actually say to her, this is what we can do. We'll stop making promises. This is what we can do for you, for the South Africa you want. They are not taking that opportunity. And we believe it's because children are not seen as central. Children are not seen as important. They are even, and now actually what children are asking for is that when parents go to vote, they should remember they're not voting for themselves. They're voting for their future.
Very, very interesting. Quite concerning also mentioning that there were no other political parties that were involved in this. Sihle, now take us through your role in actually becoming a child ambassador and what you also make of the lack of participation from other political parties per se.
So as a child ambassador, I was actually chosen at the Nelson Mandela Children's Parliament last year in 2018. And basically my journey, it's been more of me advocating for children, the children that are at home, that don't really have a say in how things are run in government. We're basically being given the platform to basically be the voice of those children. And regarding the participation of political parties, as Uma said, that it's very disappointing that they don't attend such, because to us it reads as if they don't take us seriously, you know, because they keep on saying that we are the future of tomorrow. But how are they basically portraying that to us, because they're being absent in such sessions when they are being invited to basically engage with us? So it's this hashtag that we have, that there should be nothing for us without us. And basically they're making decisions on our behalf without hearing our basically side of the story, if I can put it like that.
Now, essentially, with regards to your peers, do you have peers that also share the same interests and the same passion in actually being involved in Parliament from a young age and being able to have their voices heard?
Well, their interest comes from when I tell them what I do. It's like there isn't enough media coverage or basically educational information to inform that there are such forums. For example, in my school, they only know about the Children's Parliament and the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund because of me, because I've basically represented them and taken part in the program. But for other children that I can't personally reach, they don't know about this. So they can't have the interest or the want to take part in the program.
Now, in terms of the reach that we've actually seen with regards to the Children's Parliament and now the formation of the first South African Manifesto, what are the main aims and projected outcomes in the next 5 to 10 years?
As I have said, that we are looking into the four pillars of the Constitution in terms of Section 28 of the Constitution. We're looking into different things in each of those pillars. And really what children are asking is that in terms of protection, protect them. In terms of education, give them quality education. In terms of development, for instance, create safe recreational facilities both in school and in community, where children can be children and play. In education, they raised something that was very important, that says they need an education that speaks to them, not the education that dictates to them who they should be and how they should be. They're wanting an education that is actually looking into the future, that is informed by their interest, their talents, and their abilities. Instead of actually working and everybody having to be a scientist and everybody has to be an accountant. Some children do not want to be that. They want to be something else. Can we have the education that can look into that? In terms of girls, they're saying provide more education on reproductive health, education that is going to reduce teenage pregnancy. But when teenagers are pregnant already, have a focused program that is going to look into teenage mothers and ensure that they go back to school, but more importantly, they are provided with skills that will actually break the cycle of poverty. And lastly, condoms are free. Why can't we make it easier for the girl child to have free sanitary pads?
Now, in terms of the 4 pillars that you've mentioned now from the manifesto, one would like to somewhat paint a picture of what essentially happens in this launch or the collaboration in the Children's Parliament when the manifesto is brought forward. Is it the same decorum that we see in ordinary Parliament, where a speech has been delivered down and then members of the Children's Parliament come forward and raise questions? How essentially does that process take through?
I would have to say that with today's launch, it was more informal. It was us engaging with the civil societies, the Chapter 9 institutions, and with the one political party that was there. It wasn't something that we are presenting something to them and then they basically dissect it, or however you want to put it, but it was more of us engaging and talking to them and basically making them see what we want to see for South Africa.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for joining us in studio. That was Nelson Mandela Children's Fund Program Manager Mampe Ntsedi and Grade 11 learner and 2019 Child Parliament Ambassador Esihle Nkabine, just taking us through South Africa's first Children's Manifesto with the collaboration between the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund as well as the Children's Parliament. Let's have a look at some other news.